I was 19 years old when my cousin Mike, also 19 and my best friend since birth, told me he was going to get married. I thought he was crazy and told him so. We had done everything together, and I knew that would change once he got married. Call it selfish, but that's how I felt. I didn't stay mad long and agreed to be his best man. I had 6 months to try to change his mind, but I knew I would not succeed. Once his mind is made up, that's how it's going to be, and that's that. We were both in good shape physically, but decided to spend the next few months getting buffed up for the wedding. So we spent a lot of time at the gym. Mike is 5'10", weighs 180 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. He's a handsome guy and had lots of chicks in high school. That's why I thought he was nuts for wanting to get married a year after we got out of school. Anyway, I'm 5'8" and weigh 175 with black hair and green eyes. I didn't have as many girls as he did in school, but I did okay. My tastes were more towards the older, mature women, and he kidded me a lot about the women I would try to pick up. He was witness to a few of my mature conquests, and his favorite joke was telling me I should hang out around retirement homes since I liked them older. Funny guy. As the wedding neared, he was telling me all the people his fiancée was inviting. Aunts, uncles, and cousins from all over the place. They were all going to stay at a local hotel that was right next to a dining function hall where the reception would be. So the big day arrives, and my silly cousin goes through with it and gets married. We're at the reception doing all the usual things you have to do. Being best man, I was in the greeting line when this mature goddess comes by and introduces herself as Lorna. She is the aunt of my cousin's new wife's mother. I figured her for mid to late 50s, and very well preserved, if you know what I mean. A little plump, but so curvy in all the right places. And the knee-length dress she had on was having a hard time hiding a voluptuous body. Needless to say, I was smitten. Mike saw the way I looked at her and greeted her. He gave me a look and said, "Jack, she's family to my new wife, behave." I laughed it off and said, "Oh, come on, Mike. You know I wouldn't do anything to ruin your big day." He shook his head as we both watched her walk away. "Yeah, well, see to it that you don't," he muttered. I watched her all during the meal. I wanted to go sit with her, but had to sit at the head table. She noticed me looking at her a couple of times, but only gave a polite smile, then looked away. I was dying for the meal to end so I could go have a drink with her, maybe a dance, and maybe whatever. Who cares what Mike said? As soon as it was appropriate, I left the head table and started to mingle, greeting people at tables and making small talk. I smiled at her a few times as I made the rounds to all the other tables, saving her table for last. A lady sitting beside her got up and walked away, and I went to her table and stood over the seat. "Hi there," I smiled as she looked up at me. "Lorna, right?" "Yes, and you're Jack, right?" "That's me," I said as I pulled the chair out a little. "Do you mind if I sit for a few? I'm beat from all this mingling." "Not at all," she replied as I sat down and turned to her. "Nice wedding, right?" I asked, letting my eyes wander over her body. "Are you enjoying yourself so far?" "Yes, I am," she said as she watched Mike and Lynn share a kiss as people clinked their glasses. "Mike seems like a very nice boy, and I'm so happy for Lynn." I let my eyes wander over her body again, then smiled at her. "Well, we're both 20 now, so I hope you don't think I'm a nice boy too." She waved a hand at me and laughed. "At my age, you're still a young boy to me." "Well, I'm old enough to drink, so can I get you another glass of wine while I get myself a drink?" I asked, indicating her almost empty wine glass. She smiled, then emptied her glass. "That would be very nice of you, young man." Then she winked at me and said, "Is that better than a nice boy?" I winked back and said, "Much better," and left to get new drinks. I got her a white wine and ordered a Crown and Coke, and told the bartender to give me a double shot of Crown, which I downed at the bar, then made my way back to the table, where she was still sitting by herself now. Handing her the glass of wine, I edged my chair a little closer to her and sat down, raising my glass in a toast. "To a fun wedding night," I said, as we clinked glasses and drank to it. She continued to watch Mike and Lynn, then wistfully commented, "All wedding nights are fun." When she looked over at me, I grinned. I wasn't talking about them, and winked at her again. She laughed again. "Oh, stop," she replied. "Don't you have a girlfriend here? You need to go have fun with her and leave this old lady to her wine." I looked around the room and caught a stink-eye look from Mike. I ignored him and turned to her. "Not one of these young girls is my girlfriend. I'm single at the moment." "Well," she replied, "I'm sure there is someone here that you will have a better time with than me. I'm just a divorced old lady here to see my grandniece get married, then it's back to my humdrum life of gardening and reading." "How about a dance then? Surely you're not too old to dance, are you?" I asked, grinning at her teasingly. She gave me a look for about 30 seconds and then said, "You're not kidding, are you?" "Absolutely not," I said emphatically. "I would love to dance with you. It will be fun, don't you think?" She looked to the dance floor where people were boogieing away and said, "I'm not dancing to this. If you're serious, we can dance the next slow tune they play. That's all the dancing I want to do." We chatted for a bit about what my plans were for the future, yada yada yada, and then hit the dance floor when a slow tune was played. The first dance was one hand on hip, other hands held up shoulder high, like some ballroom waltz or something. I tried to get closer to her, and she looked me in the eyes and said, "Easy, young man. I have a reputation to watch out for here." I laughed and said, "I'm not trying to get fresh. We just don't dance like this these days. It's different for sure. Maybe we can try my way on the next one." "When they play another slow one, we'll see," she said, as the song ended. We walked off the dance floor and I said, "I'll get another drink and meet you back at the table." I ordered another round and a single shot of Crown this time, and was making my way back to the table when Mike appeared out of nowhere. "What do you think you're doing?" he hissed at me. "What?" I replied. "I'm just having a drink with her mom's aunt and being nice to her. She's alone, you know." "I know what you're up to," he said. "I see you getting your shots. Getting ready to try to seduce another granny," he asked. "Hey, Mike," I said, giving him my best innocent look. "I'm just being a nice guy. Don't worry about it. She's brushing me off anyway, thinks I'm a nice boy." "Yeah, well, make sure you stay a nice boy, you hear me?" And he walked off to get back to his wedding, leaving me to get back to my granny. I grinned from ear to ear as I handed her the wine glass, sitting down again. I smiled at her again as I sipped my drink. "Tell me, Jack, just how old do you think I am? Honestly now," she asked. "Well, I'll take a guess and say early to mid-50s. She laughed hard and said, "Aren't you the sweet charmer?" "Am I close?" I asked, honestly thinking she was more like late 50s, but I didn't want to hurt her feelings if I was way off. "I'm not going to say," she said, as another slow song started up. "Come on," she said, getting up again. "Let's see how you young kids dance these days," and we walked out to the dance floor. I took both her hands and placed them on my hips and put one hand on her hip and the other on her back and tried to pull her to me. She left her hands there but wouldn't come in close enough for our bodies to touch. "This is better," I said as I smiled down at her. "We like to get real close, but this will do for now." She looked at me and said, "I'd need more wine for that and not be in a crowded family environment." I stared at her and said, "Does that mean we can try it somewhere else, like away from all these prying eyes?" She didn't answer for a full minute. She danced and continued to look at me, trying to figure me out, I guess. "You're serious, aren't you?" she asked, being very serious herself. "You're actually trying to pick me up?" "I'm dead serious," I replied, staring in her eyes. "And yes, I am trying to pick you up. I was wondering when you were going to catch on, laughing as I said it. She was not laughing, just swaying as she looked at me until the song ended. I'm going to the ladies' room. I'll meet you back at the table, she said, and walked off the dance floor. When she came back, her face looked flushed, and she sat down and sipped her wine, then looked at me. I want you to get up in a few minutes and leave. Go mingle, dance with some nice young girl, have some fun, she said. I thought she was brushing me off, and the disappointment showed on my face. Then she smiled and took my hand in hers, like she was shaking it, and passed me her spare room card key. I'm glad I took both of them with me when I left the room. If you're serious, come to the room when you're done. I'm going to feign drunkenness and say I'm tired and go back to my room in a little while. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, you couldn't have slapped the smile off my face as I took the card key and smiled at her as I stood up. Thank you for the dances, I said, loud enough for others to hear. It was nice meeting you and I hope you feel better. Have a nice night. I then kissed the back of her hand and left her at the table. She left about 20 minutes later, and I stayed another hour and a half. All the fun wedding stuff was over. Garter belts and bouquet throwing, and people were dancing and having a grand old time. Mike was thrilled that I was dancing with other girls here and there, and all was well with his world. I had been drinking straight Coke since she left, but acting drunk, so I had an excuse when I wanted to leave. I made my way to Mike and hugged him and kissed his cheek, and hugged and kissed his new wife, and told them I was bombed and had to go. I wished them well and made my way to the hotel across the parking lot. I had no clue what was in store, but I was incredibly excited on the way over. I knocked lightly on the door, then used the card key and let myself in. The room was dark except for the TV and the bedside table lamp. She was lying on top of the covers in the hotel terry cloth robe, reading a book, looking very nice with her reading glasses and her shoulder-length hair pulled up in a bun on her head. I was starting to think you were only toying with an old lady, she said as she put the book down and stared at me. And now here you are. I have to say I'm very nervous. I've never done anything like this in my life. Well, this isn't my first time with an older woman, I said, taking my tux off and hanging it on the back of the chair, then sitting down. But it is the first time with one as beautiful as you are. You can stop with the charm, Jack, you're here. I'm here, she said, blushing and shifting around nervously. I'm dead serious, I said, getting up from the chair and sitting on the side of the bed. You've been driving me crazy since I saw you. She smiled. Well, you are certainly persistent, that's for sure. I thought you were just being nice to an old lady, but then I realized you were actually trying to pick me up. It was very flattering to an old woman like me, Jack. Stop saying that, I said, moving closer to her. I'm going to kiss you, I said, as I leaned in and kissed her lips. She laughed nervously and said, My God, I can't believe I'm doing this. You're young enough to be my grandson, for God's sake. I looked at her and said, Grandson? No way. How old are you really? She smiled and said, Not now, Jack. Kiss me again before I change my mind. In that moment, the remaining hesitation between us dissolved completely. We gave in to the mutual attraction, and as the evening progressed, there was no turning back from the choice we had made. In that moment, the remaining hesitation between us dissolved completely, and we gave in to the mutual attraction. Later, as our breathing slowed, she looked at me. That was truly amazing, young man. My ex only did that a few times in all our years, and never like you just did it. I smiled at her. You have to love to do it for it to be good, I guess, and I love to do it. Well, it shows, Jack, and you are very good at it. What about you? I asked, grinning at her. Do you enjoy doing oral sex on a man? I did it for him, a lot more than he did it for me, but I can't say I enjoyed it. I did it because I felt I should. He was a very selfish man. The connection between us grew even deeper as the night went on. both of us fully committed to the shared intimacy of the moment. In that evening, the remaining boundaries between us vanished entirely, and we gave in to the mutual attraction. Later, I lay down on the bed beside her, hugging her as I settled down. Sorry, I couldn't help it. She hugged me and laughed. Don't apologize, Jack. You made me very happy. Besides, you're young, right? I hugged her tighter. I can't believe I'm saying it, but there it is, she said. The evening went on, and we shared a deep mutual closeness that left no room for any remaining doubt between us. Afterward, I collapsed beside her, then rolled off and cuddled up to her. As I drifted off to sleep with her caressing my head, the last thing I heard was, "Thank you, young man, that was wonderful. I'm 68."